Oh, good. It's like it's cutting out just a little bit.
There we go.
Okay. I'm kind of awake. At least I'm hoping. I mean, I had to get CJ off to school every morning, of course, and then I usually spend a little bit of time trying to wake up and get my thoughts together. So
I hear you. I hear you. It's all good. It's all good.
I tried to do that this morning, and then I got to thinking about it. It's like, well, where's my questions and stuff? Well, you know what? I got so involved yesterday in all the stuff that was going on that I had to take care of that, well, I didn't get time, but I did finish the quilts. The quilts are done. They're out of my,
Finally. Wow.
yeah.
Wow. 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 Wow.
On me.
Most excellent. Most excellent, Sher. Most excellent. That is good news indeed. That is good news indeed. Now, talking about coffee and why we get organized, let me go and pour wine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
Very
Well,
good
then,
indeed.
are you making
What's
your
that?
coffee?
Yeah, I just have to pour it really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was pretty quick. I have a filter. I took it out of the coffee machine. It's a metal filter, a permanent filter, and
Yeah.
so I use it 1 cup at a time. I just pour it, I put it in the cup itself and just pour until I have enough.
Yeah.
But more efficient, in other words.
So here's an interesting question. With all of this, with all of this stuff going on between Russia and Ukraine and all the sanctions, and it's going to be a back and forth for a bit. I'm wondering, is Zoom is an American company, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, because I wonder what people would do. You're buzzing.
You wonder what?
Yeah, you hear something buzzing.
You hear something buzzing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my alarm. Yeah. So it's to say, hey, it's Sher time. That's what that.
Oh, okay.
You said you wonder what?
Oh, I was just saying, I wonder, how much of like all of these devices and apps that we have come to rely on may be affected. And I don't know, it was just one of the things I was thinking about. It's like, wow, I mean, what are all the implications for everything that people are doing, So I don't know. I just got to thinking all the different angles and directions that all of this could go and all the things that it could impact.
Already, with the war between Russia and Ukraine, there's a major cyber war going on. Huge.
Is there already?
So, that's the modern age.
Is that but I mean, is that where why Elon Musk he set up Starlink for all of Ukraine for them to be able to access the internet?
That's why, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was cool. That was cool at least.
Wow.
Okay.
It's interesting that I think if Russia were to target America cyberly, they already do, but it's hard to say, this is government sponsored, even though it is. It's hard to prove it. Where they attack companies and hold them for ransom and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But to attack the infrastructure, that would be something else entirely.
Right.
The internet itself, to shut down the major internet. they could still try and claim this as individuals, but I think they would see such big retaliation. Already they're seeing more than what I think they bargained for. I don't think they quite suspected such excessive sanctions, but yeah,
Yeah.
this is obviously a not very well thought through plan. Um, and like all dictators, if you've watched the pattern of dictators, they all get overconfident at some time and do something stupid. Saddam Hussein did the exact same thing with Kuwait, claiming it was his, belonged to them historically and all this rubbish. It's
Yeah.
just stupid nonsense. They overstep themselves, and if this doesn't lead to the end of Putin, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. Just because this isn't about him anymore. I mean, now it's actually getting into the civilian population where
Exactly.
they're cutting
Exactly.
out the sports, the arts, music,
Exactly.
podcasts, for everything, real estate. Now they're just saying no, no, if it's related to Russia, no. So that's really I thought about those kids, the teens and stuff. Students studying abroad, they're being turned out of colleges.
Right.
So
Right.
it's but you know what? I mean, it's
A
something
lot
that
of those. Yeah, say again.
it's true.
Oh, sorry. I say again.
Oh, I said, no, you're right. He didn't think any of this through.
No, and it's when his support goes with the oligarchs, because they're really being heavily targeted, even their children,
Yeah.
their accounts, foreign accounts, all this stuff. That's major pressure. It's like, dude, come on, this is your idea. This doesn't really benefit us all that much. It probably does. They probably benefit in the same way he does. But it's they were doing well enough already. They didn't need this. It's uh, I haven't seen anybody provide a reason other than the sort of prestige angle, reclaiming the Soviet Union. But in his case, it's all about money. Always, everything, all about money. People don't realize that, but it really is, and the oligarchs. So,
Yeah.
because when the Soviet Union collapsed, a lot of people don't know this. I'm trying to remember the guy's name now. I think it's Yanukovych, maybe, or anyway. But one of the oligarchs, it's just a classic story. They all did similar things, but he was just a foreman in the big aluminium factory, the biggest aluminium plant in the whole world, right? He's just a foreman of a little small group, not like foreman of the whole place. I think just a little local foreman, right? I don't know, maybe what 10, 20 guys, something like that. But it was complete chaos when the Soviet Union collapsed. There's nothing going on in the factory. Just no leadership, no organization, nothing, right? So he just gets together, his guys that he worked with, were a bunch of thugs, and he just started bullying everybody and took over, right? And sort of started running the place. But that okay, he says, well, that's kind of good in a way. Yeah, but the thing is, carrying on with this, he eventually just claimed ownership of the entire factory. That's it. Just said it's mine,
Wow.
and it still
And,
is.
and that's how he got his start into being
Yeah,
the billionaire that he is.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Just like that. Just
Wow.
say it's mine. And the other oligarchs did similar things. Now, how this becomes his and not the Russian people's, it doesn't become a public company with shares and it's just incredible. And this pattern of all the oligarchs, they just simply claim things and that was it, because they were state owned, obviously. They didn't really have with the communism. There wasn't private ownership. So when that became a thing, he said, well, it's mine now.
Wow.
It's astonishing. Yes, it's mind-blowingly astonishing. Just the sheer gumption of it and the outrageous criminality, but they get away with it. It's astonishing, and that's why they like chaos. They profit from chaos. Now, this is something that a lot of people do not understand, right? So you go into a country like Ukraine,
And the same thing now, you cause chaos and you see stuff and make it yours. And who's to say bar about that? Yeah. So
Yeah.
you don't have to have you say, yeah, but you destroy the economy and all this. So what? A ruined economy like, say, Syria's, yeah, when you come and grab stuff for yourself in that, it's still on a personal, individual scale, it's still millions or billions. It may be nothing for an economy, but that don't matter at all. So the other thing too is that he has puppets surrounding him in other states like Chechnya and Belarus and one of the Kazakhstan, I think it is, not Kazakhstan, one of the stans. So, and he had a puppet there, but the puppet messed up. And so this is also important, he doesn't want to have that threat of real democracy and all that close to his borders, especially one that has the Russian speaking population. But of course, it's all going to backfire, which is great,
So
the other thing sorry, I was saying one more put on these guys. You're
yeah.
seeing with Trump now, you're starting to see Trump's allies start to turn on him. So mark my words, some point, all of them will turn on him, including Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm waiting
yeah,
for that. I'm waiting for that,
yeah.
because
Me too.
active. He's busy, active, supporting Putin, and it's like, whoa, that's just
So are
not.
they. So are they right now, which is fascinating. But at some point when they start to see Fox, obviously, the thing that they do is tap into what is popular with their viewers, and
Yeah,
then they just run with it. They have no allegiance to anything.
yeah.
So right now, for whatever reason, the Republicans think this is very cool, but of course, it's going to backfire massively on them like crazy. So it's just so stupid. They just do anything as long as it's opposite of what the Democrats do. It's just the most idiotic thing.
So
It's so stupid. So but at some point they're gonna all turn on Trump. Yeah, yeah. They've done it before. They turn on whoever's popular. Yeah, fascinating. Just to
well,
see
I
the
was
psychology. For
yeah,
me. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I was looking at the question, on the task and
Right,
exercise.
right.
The one that I've been focused on, because I'm trying to search examples in my own life of this about the immersion bubble. My understanding of it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
yes, would
yeah,
Putin be an example of somebody that's trapped in an immersion bubble? Would his oligarchs be?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And when they
yeah,
face the
yeah,
awful truth, when it absolutely hits them, that's when they'll have that like existential crisis.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. Now they're not as caught up in immersion bubbles as most people because, they're not just thinking about themselves and me and my, they do think a little bigger, but because they get away with stuff so regularly, like the guy with the aluminium factory. He got away with it. And all those oligarchs, they're still getting away with ownership. The Russians haven't said, but hey, you don't actually own this. You just stole it.
Right.
So this emboldens them. And that false confidence creates a bubble. So that's where Putin has been getting away with stuff, getting away. He thought he can get away with this, and his clever excuse, and Trump helped him inadvertently by saying, oh, it's genius, basically sabotaged him in a sense, if he paid attention to Trump, which I doubt. But still, they get this false confidence. This is why all the dictators eventually overstep themselves, because you're getting away with it. You think you become immune. And that is a major bubble, right?
So the
They believe
well,
yeah,
narcissist too.
yeah,
Okay.
same, exactly. They get, and narcissists who stop fearing consequence become very, very, very dangerous. In other words, like narcissists who are successful with getting away with things, they become very dangerous. They become dictators in many ways, or bullies, or criminals. Yeah, because they can get away with their lies. Most narcissists that I know in just in a that you meet yourself personally, they usually are very cautious about getting caught out. Yeah, so they
Yeah.
always, that's why the book is focused on bullshit, because narcissists that you typically come into contact with, they are master bullshitters, right? So you can never sort of pin them down and say, yes, but it's actually you said this, and no, and then they'll squirm, right? But when they get to the point where they are at Putin or Trump's level, they just say stuff that's clearly outrageous and they don't care. Yeah. I mean, it's clear lie. They don't care. And that's when it's dangerous, when they stop caring like that, because then they typically get into criminal stuff too. Yeah. And you see Trump, he's been getting away with criminal stuff, lying criminally, like with his real estate overvaluations and stuff like that. This is his business model. Yeah. Yeah. Same with hyping up all of these products,
Okay.
Fascinating. Yeah. So the bubbles are when they do become like Putin now, when they start to believe they're immune and they start to believe their own bullshit, that's when it starts to implode on them. And that's sort of a good thing.
Okay.
Like I said in the book, it is not just that narcissism is a no-win psychology. It is a no possibility of win psychology.
Okay.
Right? A no-win psychology could imply, yeah, you're just not doing it well or well enough, right? So you haven't, or the other narcissists that just didn't succeed. But that's the thing. It's not that somebody's not doing it well enough. It's a no possibility of win psychology. When you think it through and you keep going and you keep going, it cannot in the end. And that's really fascinating to me. So there's hope eventually. They can't help but implode. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So I'm trying to think then on a personal level. I mean, I know I've been, goodness gracious, I was and still do get there. And that was one of my questions this morning. Based on all these questions, I had questions coming from questions.
Nice. That's the idea. That's the idea.
Okay. All right. Good. As long as that's normal.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it's not just normal. It's exciting. This is very exciting. So, when stuff starts exploding, but our bubbles, personally, immersion bubbles are very tricky. In one sense, I mean, they're sort of simple in another sense, but they really keep us disconnected from the obvious. Yes.
Yes, they do. That I will definitely say. That's like,
and that's exactly. Exactly. And as long as we don't have an ego problem with that, in other words, when we do become aware of the obvious, it's like, oh, geez, how did I miss that? Yeah, don't stress it. Say, wow, I'm so pleased that I see it now. Shift it. Yeah. Because otherwise, if you keep getting stressed every time, shift it to, yay, I now realize something. I'm now aware. Get excited about the new awareness. And so what? You were an nincompoop and you were in a bubble and you didn't know. Yeah. So what? Get resigned to it and just shift to being focused on the excitement of the new stuff. Yes.
okay. Which is, and
Does that make sense?
that,
Otherwise we.
Yeah, and that's actually that's very much what I did yesterday with one of my clients. He had come to an awareness, something that I had drawn his attention to, something that was really fascinating because, we were going through his successes and it's like, okay, let's talk about challenges. And he could only come up with one, which was really good. But then I reframed it and it's like, okay, so if you shifted and looked at it from this perspective, what do you see now? And he's like, whoa, confidence.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
So, it turned out really, really well for him. That was an amazing thing. What was that? It's like, it's perspective shifting. That's all it is.
Exactly. Perspective shifting is such an incredible power. I would say perspective shifting combined with thinking things through to the end. Gotta be to the end. Those two tools, it's kind of all you need, really. That's all you need, really. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the more you perspective shift, and of course, perspective shifting is to multiple perspectives. Yes.
Not
The
just
moment
one.
we start shifting to multiple perspectives, we start increasing our awareness. It happens automatically, right?
This is true. This is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now take the original
I-
example of. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, so I get a little concerned because I'm watching and I'm listening and I'm listening to these, the generals of our military, et cetera. And it's like, I really hope you guys are thinking everything through to the end. I really,
Yeah,
really
yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just,
It's
somebody's not.
amazing. Right, right. When you watch people at even senior levels, you see how they do not always do this. It's fascinating. It's
Right.
absolutely fascinating to realize the power of the skill that even at the highest levels, it's not always applied. You see the military guys, they think military. That's it. They tend to be caught in that bubble. Yeah.
Yes.
Did we talk about the Ukraine where they could have, instead of the people fighting, they could, stand in the streets?
Yeah. Do something
Yeah,
different. Do
yeah,
something different.
right,
And
right. It was under. That's right. We spoke about it in terms of, making a post under the idea of doing things differently.
yes.
Now, when your mind is military thinking, that's all you think is fight, 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 fight. But there are other ways to achieve your objective. So don't always think of the best way to fight. Shift your paradigm. Say, what am I really trying to do? Yeah. Because they don't perspective shift, they don't think there are other ways to defeat an enemy. Yeah. There are many, many ways to defeat an enemy. The best way, of course, is to make him your friend. So if you go as your population and you say, look, we don't want you here, but we don't hold it against you. You're just the soldiers. We hold this against Putin. We have nothing against you. We don't have animosity towards you. You people like us. And it's like, we don't want to harm you and kill you. And I don't think you want to harm and kill us either. What the hell are the soldiers on the ground going to do with that? How do you shoot people who are trying to be friendly to you, who are friendly to you? And say, look, we have family in Russia too. It's like, come on, you could be related to me. Stuff like this. It's the best way to defeat an enemy is make them your friend. So you can't make Putin your friend, but you can make his population your friend. Once they're your friend, forget it. They're not going to be Putin's friend anymore. So many ways to fry pancakes, right?
Yeah. And not only that, though, I mean, that works with any relationship, especially if you're caught in a situation. I'm just speaking domestically. If you're caught in a domestic violence situation where you have to make things the best of things until you can get it,
Right.
asking that question, what am I trying to do? Well, I'm trying to survive, and I need to do it with my wit, and I need to do it with thinking things through. So, it takes that pressure off, it takes that anxiety and that stress off. And I found that out during my last violent relationship. That's the only way I got out. So, was to be able to think things through. But I also had a lot of support that was helping me do that too. I just didn't realize I was doing it then. None of that made any sense to me what I was doing until recently. So, then that was when I was thinking about this whole immersion bubble thing. And it led me to a question this morning of just the most interesting awareness. Sitting there having my coffee this morning, and all of a sudden this thought pops into my head. And believe it or not, still, I don't know where these come from. So I'm going to need your help on this one.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's the magic when they start coming like that. Oh, please encourage them to come more.
And it was relating to the call today. It's like, well, wait. Believe it or not, this is embarrassing even saying this. I wondered to myself, gosh, did he need me to just come early or shorten the session because I'm just not that interesting? And that thought honestly occurred to me. And it's like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute, Cherry. Okay, that's an old pattern thinking. That's old self-thinking. Where is your self-esteem hurting? What is it you need? And I started asking myself all these questions about, and then I was like, wait, do these thoughts ever stop? I know that I can control them, Okay, because I don't have to react to it. Normally,
Yes.
done before, I would have ruminated on it. I would have taken that question and run with it, created an
Exactly.
entire story, all about how I'm worthless. But no, instead I was
Exactly.
like, that's not true. But why do those questions still come? Why?
So that's one of those questions that seems rhetorical,
Yeah,
but answer it. Why? Why would there be a good reason for him to come? Let's ask it in that context.
my
You're sort
ego,
of assuming that they don't make any sense.
right. It didn't make any sense that it
Say
even
again?
showed up. And so
But
I
it
was like,
does.
what was that?
I say, but it does. It makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
You
It's
just have
not
to
making
shift the
sense.
context.
Okay.
Okay, so what was the positive that you got out of the awareness of the question?
The positive came that I was strong enough to face that question.
Exactly. Exactly. In other words, since this type of question came up before and now, there's been massive
Oh, you
change.
keep cutting
Yes.
out.
Oh, damn it. Hold on. Something has gone wrong with my internet in the last 2 days, and it's just been really terrible. So hold on.
Okay.
I hope they're working on it or something, but yeah, hold on. Let me change the node that I'm connected to. So I have a whole bunch of them here to connect to and see if that helps. If not, then I'll go to the computer.
Okay.
So,
Question come up. Ego is strong enough to face them.
come on. Oh, there we go. Okay. You hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that's real clear.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. It seems to be very delayed though.
Yeah, there's it's like it comes and goes.
Oh, all right. Let me get onto the use the computer's audio then.
Okay.
That's why I use the two.
Oh, I understand. I just switched over. I love the background. That looks like an Erica picture.
It is. It is. Yeah. It is Erica's. It is Erica's. Yes. Yes. All right. So we'll try this. If this doesn't work now, then I'll switch to the computer. I was saying that the question that you asked, right? And your response is showing you a clear difference between the you of now and the you of then.
Yes, very much so.
And isn't that exciting?
I think so.
Exactly.
No,
So the one thing here that the question also reminded you is it showed you, man, sure, you've changed. You are a different person. But it's also reminding you to not default to negative assumption. Assume things make sense. Assume there's value, there's goodness to it. Yes. So now when you look at this question from that perspective, you say, wow, yes, it was a reminder that I have changed. It gives me contrast. It gives me perspective. How fantastic is that?
I like that. It is a very stark contrast. It
Exactly. And so the old self is going to come up fairly regularly like this. This is old self stuff coming up. But don't see it as old self. See it simply as reminders and perspective shifting of your progress, and to say, whoa, look, here's the difference. And also it keeps you from becoming complacent, right?
Very much so. Kind of keeps you on the
Exactly,
move, doesn't it?
exactly. Because if we're not careful, we could easily go back to those things, right? Because they're a big part of us. So it keeps you fresh. It keeps you eager. It keeps you, again, you could take that question as a motivation to continue what you're doing. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with when you talked about, a few minutes ago, perspective shifting, combining with thinking things through to the
Exactly.
end. That right
Exactly.
there, that was a
Exactly.
perfect example.
Exactly. And multiple perspective shifting, right?
Yeah.
We want to really get out of that habit of just, okay, you think about it and okay, that's different. And you find some alternate perspective in just one. There's many,
Right.
there's many, there's many.
There's a lot of them.
Right.
There really are.
Exactly. One other thing that's really, really, really super, super magically potent about perspective shifting. So the first analogy that I used always is perspective shifting is like looking through the windows of a house from the outside, and you're trying to understand the floor plan of the house, but you're doing so from looking through the windows, right?
I like that.
Right. So now you can't see maybe all of the things. Maybe there's a little, from inside, there's the inside part of the house that, in the middle that you can't see from all the windows all around. But through extrapolation, right? You
Yep.
can, once you have sufficient data, you can extrapolate that floor plan, right? You can say, well, okay, this is the living room, this is the back bedroom, this is the, the back family room and all the stuff. And okay, what's in the middle here? Well, it can really only be a central kitchen. Okay. And you see, because there's no kitchen everywhere else. Yeah.
I love this. Okay, this is making a lot
So,
of sense.
so we get to figure things out that are very logical and sensible because we have sufficient data. Now, this in conception land, this is massively huge. We are looking to build an understanding of bigger picture ideas of how the world works, how the universe works, how people works. And for that, we need as many perspectives as possible because they all help us to get a clue of that bigger whole that we cannot always see all of it, right? We can see some of it or even most of it, but not all. So when we acquire sufficient perspectives, we can start to figure out that floor plan, how the thing works. Yeah. It's very, very, very powerful. And also when we really start to get into perspective shifting as a, not just as a tool, but as a way of being, as a regular thing that we do as part of our being, you start to create perspectives through
You do.
imagination.
Yeah, that's where the imagination comes in. And a lot of
Exactly.
times the imagination is very
Exactly.
valid,
Exactly.
They're all possibilities. Like, oh, okay. So that goes to where you were talking about that there's multiple possibilities. There's always other options.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And this is it. We live in a world that's very limited because we have limited imaginations.
And they don't need to be.
They don't need to be. We can practice and exercise them and look for alternates and look too how just a little bit of imagination was needed in your answer to that question.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah, it's like, wow, why do I default to assuming it's negative? Come on, didn't you have enough imagination to imagine it could be positive? Okay, it's not truly an imagination issue, but you can say, wow, I really need to consider the full range of options. Full range.
Okay. That's a really good statement. The full range of options. Okay.
Yeah. So, we want all the colors. We want all the colors, right?
This really connects right back into, to me anyway, it really does connect into that question of sharing my understanding of immersion bubble, because I don't know, I feel like it's my ego, even though I'm trying to make it my ally, which is a very long, lengthy, probably lifetime process.
Yeah.
We can be friends with our ego, but man, it doesn't always want to work with us, does it? So That to me anyways is this whole process would almost be similar to taming it so that you can step out of whatever immersion bubble I may have been in. I don't feel like I'm in one right now. I'm still feeling very neutral, very calm, especially now that I finished that quilt. There's, that's off my back. And I feel free to move forward. I feel free to do the things that I want to do now. Learning the lesson that that's just not for me anymore, So now what is? I don't know. Coaching, writing, fighting to stay single. So that's I don't know, that was just really, really a neat question that I'm still working on writing out.
Isn't it amazing how just one simple little question leads to so much?
It is. And if you were to draw it out, like say in a picture, to me, the question would be like your old screen background that you used to use, where it had all of the different facets. It was the dot. Oh, you remember which one it was? It had all those little squares and it just branched out into a giant circle.
Yes. I know which one with all the lines. Yeah, I'll put it up. It's very easy.
That's like, to me, the question is the center. Yeah. And you've got all these answers, all these perspectives.
Exactly. And also on this background, keep in mind that, if you look really close on it, you'll see there's another layer behind it. Yeah, you see? In soft.
I'm looking.
You look inside one of the squares, right?
Okay, I'm trying to see it. I'm on my phone.
Okay, so yeah, you have to, I think, tap on me and make me or pin my video. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there are other squares inside of it. All right.
Right. So now you see it's got a 3D dimensionality to it. Plus, imagine this to be a sphere that goes all around you.
Yeah. And that's how many perspectives there are.
Exactly. Then we start to get an idea of the bigger picture. It's very cool. It's very cool.
That one always comes to mind. That one or a diamond. Those two were just wonderful.
Yes. And for me, I envisage this sphere, right? Because obviously a very large sphere. Yeah. To be, these points are the core conceptions, the key ones, like impeccability, strategy, perspective shifting, etc. And there's dozens of these, or maybe even hundreds. I don't think there's that many. They're not infinite. They really aren't, right? Mm-hmm. So probably dozens. That would be my guess. Somewhere around there. Okay, even if it's hundreds, it doesn't matter. But when you imagine the sphere with all these points of light on them, right? The key, the core points there, right? The light now. And the more we explore, like we just did, we went a little deeper into perspective shifting. The more we explore those, the more each point connects to each other point.
Yes.
Basically, you can think of these points as like a city on a map of a country, right? Like an American map is a very good example because America has nice highways, right?
Okay.
And you see how the highways are connected to the other cities. Yes. And now if you have a map that's obscured and the only time that you see the cities on the map is if you've actually been there. Right.
Right.
So of course, the more you go to more cities, the more that map starts to fill out. Now, eventually, if you have sufficient, if you don't just start at one side and move yourself away across, let's say you're jumping randomly across that map, at some point you're going to be able to fill in what's in between. Yes?
Yes. Absolutely.
And that, to me, is how enlightenment comes about.
Filling in all the in-betweens.
Well, it happens when these individual points of understanding, points of comprehension, points of insight, points of conceptuality, these huge, big realizations and awarenesses, right? Each city, in other words, lights up. But as it lights up, it starts to connect with the other nodes, because we're
Yeah.
talking about nodes now, right? That conception point is a major node. And, you know, a city isn't just one little point. It's got all the satellite suburbs and stuff around it, smaller cities. You know, it's like, look at LA. I mean, LA is what, I don't know, 2 dozen major cities, all. So they all come together with it, right? I mean, if you think LA itself, you know, you've got all the other surrounding places, San Bernardino, whatever, Santa Monica, all of these other places. It's like awareness and attunement and alignment and intent. They're all together like that, right? So, but as you go more and more, I think the brain literally, because it's nodes, and they start to rewire, they start to connect. As we go through the dictionary of power, those conceptions are all connected with each other. Very deeply and very profoundly. The more we think about impeccability, we realize that impeccability and awareness, appropriateness are so intimately linked. You know, they're almost a synonym, right? But they're not quite a synonym, but almost. So we see the connections. We see the connections with awareness, with attunement. We see all of it is connected. And I really feel the more we go with this, at some point, the whole brain fires up, not just the nodes that are involved, because you're constantly connecting connected nodes. Yes?
Okay. So an immersion bubble is just, it's when you're focused on one thing. You're like hyper focused and you're just dwelling on one thing.
Correct.
Okay.
And you immersion bubbles are the limitation of your universe.
Yeah. You can't see the connection.
You make a small world and you lose sight of the bigger picture. Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I was making a sort of a slightly different point, not sort of an immersion bubble point, but when we think of this, my background there, and we think of it as your brain, your mind, your universe, that if you light up enough points, they light up other points, and the whole thing eventually lights up.
Okay. No, I do get that.
That's the to me, that's what, when they talk about enlightenment, you know, in Eastern writings and stuff, that's what happens in the brain. All these nodes, because look, emphasis expands a node and it connects to other nodes. And if you keep doing this and all the nodes stay emphasized, and eventually the whole brain, it enlightens the whole brain. It connects, you see, it emphasizes the whole brain. You're going to have a very different brain, are you not?
Yeah, you're going to.
Yeah.
The term enlightenment, do I ever want to say that that's what I'm working towards? I don't know. Right now, what I'm trying to work towards is making sense of myself in the world.
Yeah. I hear you. I don't like this term enlightenment either. It's got too much baggage. But what I can say is I am working towards making sense of the universe.
Yeah, that feels comfortable.
Exactly.
Making sense of it.
Exactly.
When I feel like, when something makes sense to me, I feel settled. I feel like, okay, you know, I can function and it's not plaguing me. When something doesn't make sense to me, whether it's a person, whether it's a statement somebody made, or something I saw, whatever, it bothers me. And I always have this need to figure out, all right, what the reality of that, whatever it was. So I think I can understand immersion bubble. I'm going to give that a little bit more thought and put all this together, because I can see where if you're trapped in this bubble, you're not going to be able to, you know, extrapolate anything at all. It's just going to be focused on one thing only. You're going to box yourself in, get stuck in negative thinking. All kinds of things that can happen. It's just that I do know, I've had personal experience though, with when you do face that truth, your world does collapse. Things just really are not comfortable. And if you're not careful, you can definitely shame yourself. You can definitely do that, because I've been there. So that's something definitely to be aware of and to be very cautious of. And I never want to take my clients to that point. I feel like I just don't, it's not a happy place to be, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, how do I keep them out of that? Well, you can't stop it. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But at least I know how to coach them through shame and feeling, I've done it several times, but shame is a beast of its own. So
Yes.
truly, truly is.
So, if you look at immersion bubbles, think of it from the scuba diving perspective. Yeah.
Right.
Right. So you go underwater and it's like, man, wow, what a world. And you forget where the surface is.
Yeah, that could be scary.
Number one rule of scuba diving, always remember where the surface is. Always, because it's surprising, you go down a bit further, the light changes, you get kelp around you, you might go into a cave or whatever. If you forget where the surface is, you drown, right? I saw this somewhere long ago, that this was a critical rule for scuba diving, right? With the tanks, when deeper diving. And this was a major, major issue. And it always stuck with me because it is precisely the issue with immersion bubbles. When you're down underneath the ocean there, right, and the light changes, and now you can't tell up from down anymore. Yeah, this happens. Literally, this happens.
Yeah.
Now that world under the water, I mean, the undersea world is actually a larger world than the land world, because there's more water space than land, right?
Yep, that would
It's
be
a
terrible.
3D world, but it's a small world compared to the world that we live in. It's not our world. We can't survive there. So you in a bubble, but you believe this is now the world.
Yeah.
And that's with immersion bubbles. When you believe a sub-reality is the reality. That's immersion bubble.
I like that.
Yeah. When you come to believe
that would be
the
terrifying.
sub-reality is the reality.
So when you put it in that perspective, I don't know why, but I can feel that fear of
Yes.
having been in those bubbles, not
Yes.
in
Yes.
very
Good,
similar
good,
to it.
good, 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 good. If you associate immersion bubbles with fear, that's a very good thing.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah. Because this will keep, it's like, man, I don't want to be in those bubbles again. Yes, it is one of the most terrible things, because you do not know that you're missing out.
No, you don't know that
believe this is the reality. Yeah.
You
When it's
don't
not.
know.
It's not even close.
No, you don't know how life can be without shame. That was my reality, as you know,
Exactly.
for most of my life, trapped in
Exactly.
those bubbles, one after the
Exactly.
other after the other.
Exactly. Now think of a fish, right? That's been living in that ocean all its life, and it has no idea of land. That just doesn't exist. Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. Oh my. Exactly.
Okay, but I'd have to ask this question, like I asked of the aliens. The aliens have consciousness. How do we know? I mean, do they have an ego? How do we know whether they do or not?
Exactly. They may have multiple consciousnesses running at the same time.
Oof, I couldn't imagine.
Precisely, but it's certainly a possibility. Why not?
It is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder how
I want
many
to show you
people-
something here really quickly. Next time you feel like doing something for yourself, I don't know, maybe it's just a suggestion. Just for not to use the pencils, but simply to buy the set and display it somewhere with a nice little, something that says perspective shifting. Yeah. And there you go. Look at all these colors. And you know what I'm enjoying? Okay, I'm just going down the yellows here now, right? And if you look at them, I don't see any that are like, but those look like they're the same. You know what I mean?
Wow.
They're all different in some way, which is fantastic.
That's
anyway.
beautiful. I like that. Well, I can see the last jar.
Yeah, exactly. But to put them as an artistic display, where you see all these colors, just to remind us, man, perspective shifting, there are more colors, there are more colors, there are more colors. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. See, there was okay.
And yeah, it's not, and I might just buy this just for the hell of it. As a matter of fact, I think I will do it. Man, it's $50. It's not nothing, but it's not the end of the world either. You know what I mean?
There was a project that I still want to do, and it's a type of journaling, but people just don't save magazines if they even get them much anymore. And so I've been trying to find someone who's got magazines that they'd be willing to let me have, old ones. Because what you do is in this journal, you just take a blank page journal and you look for the pictures that try and identify, a thought, a feeling that you're having in that moment. And it's kind of similar to the pictures that you do online, where you try and find pictures that relate very specifically to your post. Well, this is the same thing, except for you do it with magazines, and then you just paste them into your journal. You can write yourself a little note or something as to what your thought or feeling was. But it's part of it is kind of to develop, your creativity, your creative thinking side of your mind. And then I thought, well, okay, if I can't find magazines, maybe I can try and draw. Well, I tried. And so honestly, not everybody is an artist. Nope. Could I do it? So I use words. Words are my art. Even though my words aren't fancy, they're me, they're in my voice, and that's what's important to me. So did you get the colors? Oh, I don't have any volume from you.
I didn't touch the phone. It muted itself. Now that's something new. I never seen that happen before.
Yeah, it's happened to me once or twice.
Wow.
So anyways, it's just a different way of journaling, for expressive journaling. Anyways,
I love it. I was saying, yes, cool. I was very excited about this whole idea. I thought, man, this is great. This is fantastic.
I want to try and do it, but I'm still, and I haven't given up on the idea. And I thought, even if I have some extra cash, I'll just grab some cheapy magazines, flyers, and stuff like that from, like the stores.
I have an idea for you.
Okay.
So I'm assuming, most places have them. You just got to do a bit of searching for bulletin boards, online bulletin boards, and in Facebook too, right? So look up where you live, Jackson Hole?
Lake Jackson, yeah.
Lake Jackson, Lake Jackson Bulletin, or Lake Jackson Group, or something like that, right? They have Lake Jackson Community, whatever. Yeah. I know in Sedona they've got half a dozen of them, right? And they call them different names. And also in the surrounding areas, like for instance, Sedona or Cottonwood, it's Verde Valley, so it's the greater area, so they have that too.
Okay.
So yeah, just look through it a little bit. And in those places, you'll see people saying, look, I need some yard work done. Can anybody help me out? I need to move my fridge, stuff like this, or I lost my cat. And, did you see my cat? Or whatever. A community. They really are community bulletin boards, and they're fantastic resources, right? Fantastic. Because sometimes people will even advertise in those to say, I need new curtains, or, anybody can recommend a therapist or whatever, right? So this is asking for resources generally. And of course, they also advertise their services there. But this is the place to say, look, anybody got old magazines that they want to get rid of, and, you don't want to go and dump them, or you don't want to take them to Goodwill or whatever. You don't know what to do with them, and they're just sitting there, but you don't want to just throw them away. I'll take them off your hands, right? And because I've got a project, and people say, oh, great, thank you. You're going to help me out to get rid of the stuff. They've just been sitting there, my mother collected them, whatever. So you'll find plenty takers. And just in general, those community bulletin boards are great resources. I keep an eye on them every now and then, just simply because it keeps you in touch with the world around you as well.
Exactly, it does. Exactly. I think I'm in 4 of them, and that's a wonderful idea to get on there and just ask the question, hey, if you've got any magazines, let me know. I'd love to take them off your hand.
Exactly. And, you can even explain your project. and you say, look, I want to use these for my journaling. You know, I'm going to go through them, find pictures, blah, blah. And oh, that's fantastic. Wow, I'm so happy to help you. I don't have a lot, but I got a few. And you can say, you know, I don't need, you know, if I get a few from here, a few from there, I'll build up enough. You know, so this is lots of resources,
Yeah, we'll see. And I also
Those are great. Those are great resources. Those are great resources.
And I thought too that it would be a good project for CJ to get into as well. That way,
Exactly.
whenever
Exactly.
he feels like he wants to go looking through the magazines and cut out pictures and stuff, then he can paste them
Exactly.
into his journal.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know, and then because he's getting into the habit of journaling 5 minutes a day. Still doing it a little bit grudgingly, but he's getting into it. And
Nice.
he's
Nice.
finding the benefit of at least
Yeah.
getting his questions and his thoughts on paper.
Yeah.
He thought at first it had to be structured, and it's like, no, write whatever comes to your mind, just whatever, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so set the timer and he does it.
Yeah.
And I write with him during that 5 minutes time.
Brilliant.
You know, we both sit there and write.
Brilliant.
I don't ever ask him to share it, you know, only if he wants to, but there's only been twice that he's wanted me to read it. Once it was because it was funny. There were a whole bunch of questions about me. He's like, you know, why is grandma's hair white? You know, how did grandma get to be so old? Just questions.
Yeah.
And then he asked a really serious one. He's like, what's going to happen to me if grandma doesn't make it until I'm 20? And I'm like, can we just not think about that? Because I will. You know?
Yeah, you know, right. When you were 20, you know, getting to 40 was a big deal. Well, you know, 60 to 80 is the same gap.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you were young, getting to 20 something was a big deal. So it's the same gap, you know.
Yeah, you know, when I turned 21, I thought, oh, great, you know, okay, what does this mean? Well, I was sick that day, but still, you know, I was like, oh, okay, I'm 21 now. Is there supposed to be?
Yeah, when I was I had to do guard duty when I turned 21.
You had to what? Guard duty?
I was in the army. You know, they had the conscription 2 years. 2 years,
Okay.
can you believe it? 2 whole years. That's a long time. It's 10% of 20.
Yeah, it is.
And so it just happened to be that I was on guard duty when I turned 21, which, you know, it's like guard duty kind of sucks, you know. Anyway,
Wow.
but yeah, it's just boring, you know, and you get little sleep and stuff like that. It's just disruptive. But
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Well, so that's a wonderful, wonderful idea.
so I have another wonderful idea for you, just by
Okay.
way of something to do regularly.
Okay.
As a meditation, and specifically a morning meditation. Now, whether you do this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, it doesn't matter. Hour, you can do it for 2 hours. I don't know, however long is appropriate, right?
Okay.
Now, I'm not hugely a fan of meditation because, well, it's a complicated business and most people don't quite understand what it is. And the idea of meditation is to quieten the mind, the constant churning, and to get it to be more silent and still, and just to have that skill, right? The skill of quietening the mind, so that we can get to experience and conceive past the continually running description of what's going on, right? The chatter, yes, which keeps us in our immersion bubbles. This is the point of it. Now, that's a worthy exercise, but it's difficult to do. But there are other ways that we can achieve the same thing and get additional benefits. So the meditation I'd like to propose is this is a morning exercise, very particularly a morning exercise, to focus on appreciation and to take it even further. The ultimate of appreciation would be awe. Yes?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it is.
That's the superlative of it. Right. So the exercise is to start with appreciation, not gratitude. Gratitude's a different thing. Appreciation and extend it into awe. Because gratitude is something you kind of give. And once you've given it, it's done and it's over. But appreciation is a constant, continuous, ongoing thing, correct?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Right. And there was a great little post in group yesterday or day before. And it says, what you appreciate appreciates.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, he keeps on
Yeah,
giving.
like as in increases in value, and also if it's somebody, a person, they
Yeah.
also start to appreciate. So this is the idea. It is to get the brain fired up. You want to really immerse in appreciation so much that you get to awe. Yeah. Because now when you start this as your day, your brain starts to, as a regular habit, you're focusing on awe and appreciation. You start shifting the way in which you conceive of the world. Yes.
Oh, okay, I got it. Takes the
And
fear.
it's a huge deal. Now there's a moreness to this. There's even a moreness to this. Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, I like things that have multiple values and reasons. So if you look at nature, all of nature, and you look at it, how it works, you see that nature is geared towards anytime there's free energy, something feeds on that free energy. Yes? Always, doesn't matter. Look at those vents under the ocean, right? Where they have these, like, different life forms there that aren't a usual based life. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Those are it's free energy. Something found a way to create that. Right. So what do our emotions, our energetic mind, emotional state, right? We're giving off energy all the time. We're radiating energy. You think
We are.
something's not going to want to feed off that? Well, of course they are, right? So
Right.
we understand viruses, physical viruses. We have no problem with this. We understand that. What is a virus? It's a
What is?
parasite, correct?
Yeah, it is.
It's a parasite. It feeds off of you, and it's an alive thing. And its goal is to feed off you, right? It does so destructively, but that's what parasites do. They're stupid. They have short term, and that's it. Okay. Now we know about physical viruses, but what about mental viruses, emotional viruses?
Oh, there's plenty of those.
Exactly.
Just
Exactly.
like we
Now,
are.
now, I'm making a point here in a bigger thing, right? To go to this. So now we have to look at the typical food source that is the energy radiation that comes out of people. What is it? It's typically misery
I was
of
gonna
some
say
kind.
negativity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The predominant emotional state of the average human being is annoyed, irritated, bothered, jealous, shame, guilt, you name it. Right. If you look at the percentage of time that people spend in happiness and joy, it's very small.
Right.
Maybe a few seconds while they're having sex, or a few minutes while they're having sex, yeah, or other potential things. But in general, happiness is not part of that spectrum, right? So any of these viruses, if you're looking at it from a nature evolutionary point of view, if you're going to use this as a food source, it's the negative that you're going to adapt to feed you. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right. Now we get to the logic of, also beside the meditative aspect of getting your mind to focus on one thing and one thing only, right? And also to take appreciation and take it even further, right? So the double benefit there already, but you're focusing on awe. So yes, you are practicing concentration, and if your mind goes away from the awe, you bring it back. If it goes away, you bring it back. So you're learning to tune the mind and control the mind, and so that you're in control of your mind, not all sorts of 101 thoughts, right? So that's one of the main focuses or the benefits of meditation, is the ability to be where you wish to be in your awareness, in your emotions. It's self-control, in other words. But because I'm suggesting a focus on awe, we get this additional benefit of depriving the viruses and predators and the stuff that feeds on us their food source.
That's
So,
true. Very, very
so
true.
now we provide them the one thing that they cannot consume, which is the very opposite of all that negativity. So we
Yeah.
make ourselves unpalatable to them, and they say, you know what, this Sher, she doesn't taste very nice. Sorry, I'm going to go elsewhere. Yeah, and then you start to basically get rid of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. And
So it
actually,
is. It's very, very cool. It's very, very cool.
it almost
Right.
reminds me of do something different, with that
Exactly.
we were talking about.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do something
And
different.
exactly. Now, our brains have a part in them that is hardwired to make sense of things. Right.
Yes.
So if I'm feeling awe, that part of the brain is going to say, yeah, but how is this justified? How is it justified? How does this make sense? How does this make sense? How can I support awe? And now through feeling awe, we start to have to create the story to justify the awe. The story that creates the awe is the story of how things do actually really do make sense. And when we see the incredible complexity, the genius, the brilliance of the system that we live in, we go, holy crap. And we are in awe because it is awesome, right? So now we have an additional benefit. We start to connect, make sense to the feeling of awe, and we're coming at it from the other side. So we can intellectually understand it makes sense, but when you have the feeling that connects to this understanding, and now we are going to use a positive feeling and belief loop. So it won't really be a belief, it will be an actual factual existence experience. That's why the awe comes from. We'll actually see it and feel it. And man, what a magical place to live in, yes?
I would have to say so. So this also reminds me of a conversation that Eric and I had the other day. We were talking about how each of us is trying to find the things, appreciation for the things that we have lost appreciation for. For example, both of us really struggled with the idea that we could manage math, that we could understand math and work with it. And I was fascinated to find out that she also had a fear of math. Okay. So we were talking about that. And as I understand it, math is in everything, that it's not a solid construct. I mean, it's so interchangeable, basically. It's theory. It isn't an absolute. Except for we know that 2 + 2 is an absolute, 1 + 1, etc. Or is it? Anyway, long story short, math is in everything. But because it is, and I get that, because math to me is a challenge, or it has been a challenge, or I told myself that it was a challenge, that I couldn't do it, I shied away from art. I shied away from drawing, from doing creative things, from really pursuing my love of music, all because of math. So when I get to think about this, when I think about how in awe and appreciating, I can appreciate the idea that in nature, there's math in everything that nature produces to its art.
Exactly.
Flowers, the beautiful lotuses, the ponds, sunset, everything. It's all connected. So I just got to thinking about that, and it's like how things make sense. Well, it makes sense to me because there's logic. There to me is a logic. I don't know if nature is random. I really feel like there's a logic and an order to it somehow. And for me, anyways, to be able to appreciate that, that's something I can definitely get behind. I can do that, but it reminds me of that conversation that she and I were having about, finding awe in just the simplest of things. So yeah, cool. I don't know if that went anywhere, but it did for me. So
nice. Yeah, it's huge. And again, it's just perspective shifting. It's just connecting dots, So
well, perspective shifting is a big part of diplomacy too, though. We have to be able to hear
exactly
what they're saying.
Exactly.
See it.
Oh, perspective shifting is critical to capitalist diplomacy. Absolutely critical. It's essential. Why? Because we need to see alien perspectives.
Okay. That's where it turns into. Okay. All right.
Yeah, this is a skill. So we have to combine perspective shifting with imagination and creativity and stretching ourselves.
Yes.
We have to stretch sometimes because, man, some of those perspectives, and I call them alien, and that's why I like this. The capitalist diplomacy is connected to the new nobility because they're out in the future and there are aliens in that world, right? And so, if you look at the bigger story, the new nobility are like the diplomatic core of the agglomeration because they trusted and they have integrity and so on. but they really literally do sometimes need to have negotiations with aliens. And or they were broker. Typically, they the impartial. Okay, the humans and aliens and other aliens and whatever, and they the third or the fourth party, but they the brokers, right? So they
Yeah.
need to see everybody's perspectives. But in our world here, when you start to deal with people, Putin, he's got an alien logic right now. Doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to us. It's like, holy moly, dude, what the hell are you thinking? But that's the point. There usually is, or almost always is, a logic, but it's a bubble logic.
Yeah, something's making sense to him and it's not making sense to the rest of the world.
Exactly.
And so there's times, and yes, right now I feel like I've even passed my own judgment thinking, God, he's a madman. He's going to ruin the world. But
Yeah.
then you have to stop and go, well, is he? Are we just not asking him the right question?
Exactly. Or are we not sharing perspectives which broaden his awareness of the bubble that he's in? Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
as much as Putin is a madman, Sher was a mad woman at one point.
Yes, exactly.
Why?
Exactly.
Because she was caught up in a shame bubble
Uh-huh.
or a guilt bubble. Yes.
Quite a few. Yeah. Shame, guilt,
Right.
fear.
So what's the difference? You and Putin both were in bubbles which were detrimental to you, yes?
Yeah. And I couldn't see beyond it. It was very, very limited. And then until someone started asking the right questions,
Exactly.
the right
Exactly.
questions, and we
And your
don't know what
perspective
those right
shifted.
questions are until we hear the person.
Exactly. And your perspective shifted to get out of it, right?
Yes, I had to.
Yeah.
There was no other way. It was either that or die.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm kind of enjoying my life a bit right now. So, when if I'm looking at all of this from, we could even do diplomacy with ourselves, to be honest with you, be diplomatic with our own egos. So, because it just comes down to hearing. To me, we got to hear things first. So I don't know. That's where I feel like it starts. Is if we're practicing diplomacy, it starts with hearing, capital H hearing. And if we're not willing to hear another party,
Exactly. And patience. As you go through, you're going to see there's a big section on patience. But yes, without both, capital hearing needs patience.
Yes, it does.
And so you've got patience included in capitalized hearing, and the diplomacy without hearing, it's like dead in the waters. Where is it going? I mean, this is nothing, right? So,
yes.
Yeah. A big deal. And then we start to realize how much capital diplomacy applies to ourselves.
Yes, it does. And that's where that's where I'm starting to see that, just really thinking about this on a daily basis. I have been, and look at it and think, what am I applying? I'm doing that, name that conception game with me or with myself in my day. Paying attention to where I'm unaware. I am doing that. And by and large, I am, strangely enough, unaware of what I'm thinking and feeling on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to it. I'm not quite sure how a person splits their attention between the external of themselves and what they're thinking and feeling at the same time. I don't know if that's possible, because I have to turn one off and focus on the other.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah.
I kind of find it's a little.
Can you feel the external with the internal? Use the internal to feel the external. Then you can do it both at the same time.
That's different.
Perspective shifting right there.
That's different. Okay, so feel the external with the internal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to practice that.
Yes. Yeah, very cool. Can you make that tape rewound sound? you know.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's make that rewind and go back to when you were sharing about the question that you asked yourself. Yeah,
Oh,
like about the becoming on Zoom.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so right. So let's go. We're going back in time now, right? We're doing a time shift, right? And
Yep.
and we're going back to the time when that question popped into your head, and you like, hello, what's this?
Okay.
Right. But the very first microsecond when you encountered that, where it's like, hello, what's this, right? Or a question, right? Now, you haven't put any emotional, any interpretation, anything to it yet. It's just the question. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. In this moment, right then, now you apply capital D diplomacy to yourself. And imagine the part of yourself that asked that as being the aliens, or the nation of I don't know what you want to call it inside Sher, and you're now the broker between the Sher of now and the Sher of then. Correct? Because that was a question from the land of Sher of then, correct? But now you're gonna be a third party to between now and then, correct? And maybe there are other parties involved. We don't know. We'll see. But how do you treat this question with capital D diplomacy? So
Absolutely.
first you have to hear the question. Second, you have to come at it and shift perspective. Because if you're the diplomat and this was one of the delegates and they say this question, if you reacted the way Sher did earlier, say, what the fuck, dude? Well, where do you come with this idiotic question? There goes your conference. There goes your summit. Right? That's the end of your diplomacy right there, yes?
Oh my God.
See how magical this is. Now you've got to get inside the delegate who asked this seemingly preposterous question. But then the delegate starts to explain, boy, you could write a really deep actual story about this. Because now you start and you figure out. And then the delegate says, but we had a big conference about this. The whole planet was involved and all the boffins. And we said, how do we communicate this point that we need to make short? And so we came up with this. And he said, yeah, but it seems so ridiculous. Yes, we know. But if we don't say anything, it's worse. So we try this hoping that the person, the audience that we're sending this to, we're hoping that they will shift and perspective shift and get it. And then they'll see the genius in the question, right? But it's a long, I'm just skipping to the end.
No, I'm digging this because it makes a
You
lot
start
of sense
to get
to
to
me.
understand that this delegate had no choice but to make this, because anything else, they didn't have the chance, the option. They limited to one question and that was it. And so they had to get through to you. All right, it doesn't always work, but they would try. So it becomes a magical story. But the capital diplomacy is what allows us to hear it, right? To open up to it.
And it came, honestly, it came about just listening to all this. I'm almost certain that question came about because I had been doubting my ability the last day or two to really step up to what I'm asking myself to do. Somewhere along in the line in there, one of my parts of self, and I'm assuming it's my ego, was saying, I don't know, or inner critic probably. I don't know if you can make this Sher. This is a lot of heavy stuff. This is a lot of stuff you're getting into an area now that's going to challenge your intelligence. And so when I get to thinking that way and I hear those thoughts and I have to back them down, I'm like, no, I am smart enough to understand this. I can get this. It's just going to take me a little longer. That's all. Doesn't mean anything about my intelligence. Just means that, I've got other things that are distracting me. CJ,
Exactly.
finances, family, all kinds of things. So there's just multiple distractions that I'm going to have to tune out to be able to sit down and devote time.
Exactly.
Take care of me,
Exactly.
time to do my work.
Exactly. And this is another benefit of that meditation exercise, the ability to be singularly focused. Yes.
Yes.
Because sometimes, as much as we don't like immersion bubbles, because they limit our awareness, those are ones that come upon us without control. Yeah. So
Oh,
we want to go scuba diving.
An immersion bubble could also be that role that I play with CJ of the caretaker, the
Exactly.
guardian, the need to be perfect parent
Exactly.
kind of thing. I got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Immersion bubbles aren't negative in themselves. They only so if we lose contact with where the surface is, right? So
Okay.
an immersion bubble is wonderful, but do not get lost in it. That's the trick. Yes. So anytime we read a book or watch a movie, we go into an immersion bubble. If you don't, you're not going to enjoy the book or the movie. You won't get inside it. That's
That's
as
right.
a writer, this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to pull your readers into your world. Yes.
Yeah.
Once they become immersed in it, their nodes fire up and then they're in a different reality. And this is all wonderful. This is the whole idea of it, but never lose contact with the surface. Now,
You know what?
when you're watching a book and a movie, you don't, yes, you may completely and not hear the doorbell ring and that happens for people, but at some point the movie ends or the book ends and okay, you get back to reality, right? So
Yeah.
this is the power of immersion bubbles. It is something that we want to do when we're writing. This absolutely we want to get pulled into an immersion bubble. It's why we write ugly, because the editing, it keeps popping you out. Yes. But because when you just let the story flow or the words flow, whatever, when you're writing flow, then you don't care about that. So you get sucked in, the nodes fire up. It's all about appropriate emphasis, in other words. Yeah. So we want to have the ability to utilize immersion positively.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
If I take everything that you just said and I apply that to, I finished the quilt, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday, after I finished the quilt, I thought, after a bit, cleaned up the room and put all my supplies away. My first thought was, now what? Well, now I have to do XYZ. No, I don't. Now you need to stop making excuses and get busy on your book. And I've been avoiding, I've got ideas ready. I have my book organized. I have the flow organized, but I have been resisting starting it and looking for things not to do it. Why? Because there's something back there that just says, maybe you're just not worthy. Let's go back to a conversation I had with you a few weeks ago when I said, I'm just going to give up writing.
Yeah.
Something is challenged inside. I am not creative, but I am.
Of course you are.
There. I know, but something is there. And I don't know if that's my old self fighting against all this.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. So that's why I want to do that magazine journaling, that expressive journaling, and this morning meditation you're talking about. Those two projects, those two things right there, I think might help, reinstate some of that belief that it's like, where in the hell is all that coming from? I don't know.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. You want to write the second book, correct?
Yes. Absolutely.
Can you say it out for me?
I want to write that second book.
Okay. You do want to write this. I mean, you really do, yes? Okay.
Yes.
Well, now, let's break it down. Instead of going and embarking on this project as a big project, can you say, I want to write a page of that book? Just one page.
I can do that. I want to write a page. I can do that.
Yeah, there you go. And then you write another page, and then you write another page, and so you carry on. It's astounding how stupid our brain can be sometimes. It's but writing a book is a kind of a big deal. It starts complaining. Well, we don't have to write the whole book. I just have to write a page. That's all.
What I'm questioning is not that I can write it. What I'm questioning is, what I write, will it be valid? Well, how ridiculous is that, Sil? Because what I'm writing about is my journey.
Exactly.
Not my past. I'm writing about the process that I've been going through.
Exactly. And what did you say? How ridiculous. How can it not be valid?
Exactly. So that's my inner critic, right?
Yeah.
That's the inner critic that needs to.
So now, let's apply the capital D diplomacy to this inner critic. Do not say,
Okay.
hey, fuck off in a critique, you little shit. You're a nuisance and a bother and a reputation. No, let's assume, like the new nobility, they give you the ultimate benefit of the doubt as a delegate. They assume you are impeccable. They assume you are intelligent. They assume you know more than they do. They assume you have extra additional perspectives. They assume you're bringing value. This is their starting point. If then they will make every effort to prove this starting point to be valid.
Okay.
If they don't, well, okay, then you end up with a different reality, right? But think of it in our interactions here with you and me, Bina, Erica, Jane. Isn't that the default assumption that we're bringing a moreness, you bringing a moreness? I assume that there's more, and I assume your intent is impeccable. Your intent to goodness is impeccable. I assume sometimes when you bring a major point into the conversation that there's moreness to it, there's value to it, there's excitement, there's joy, there's wonder, there's usefulness, value, correct?
Yes. How could
Assume
that
with the inner voices. It seems on the surface, seems to be, but that's just habit. That's just habit. Where is the value in this? If you just rewind this and you go back to what you were just saying, you were making a great case for writing your book. So that question actually brought this all out, did it not?
Yeah, it did. It really did.
So it wasn't a critic, it was a motivator.
Oh, I like that shift.
Yeah, it was that voice in there, which you thought was critic, not actually critic. They were trying to get you to have clarity of intent about why you want to do this, why it's important, why it's a big deal. Yes?
Yes, I get it. I see it. Okay.
Shifting changes the world.
It sure does.
Instantly. Instantly. That's what I love about perspective shifting. One perspective shift and suddenly in a different world. Just like that. Bing, bang, boom.
I just wrote down too, shift the world because I can shift my world.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Change
We don't have to change the world. All we need to do is change how we look at the world.
Yes, exactly. This is cool.
So
Okay.
simple. Yeah.
I can get on board.
And the power of it is incredible, is it not?
Well, yeah, because this just changed my outlook on a whole lot of things this morning. Thinking I wasn't understanding I do understand.
Exactly.
Oh, that's where language comes in. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. So now, we're taking capital diplomacy and we're saying we're going to apply it to all of our aspects.
Okay. I could do that.
Yeah, because some of those aspects, okay, when you like in the New Nobles and they're doing a diplomatic conference. Yes, the aliens are sometimes in that universe. The aliens are all more sensible and more intelligent than the humans, and the humans, well, it's kind of hard for them to deal with sometimes. But okay, right, just in a whole. But occasionally you have to deal with some, not all the aliens are, but some of the aliens are less. And sometimes you also have to deal with new human worlds that have been discovered. And the people are just freaking retarded. They're caught up in superiority paradigm and all sorts of nonsense, right? And they just, seriously, right? So and same with our aspects, right? They're very primitive. They're very limited. So we have to deal with them or their children. Most of our aspects are like Mrs. Stubborn. That's a child logic. Yeah. But you can flip it and use it to your advantage, right? So you are stubbornly determined to not have an ego, for instance. It works like a charm. Use stubbornness for good purpose, right? All you have to do is give them the appropriate goal. Now, Mr. Stubborn is fantastically happened. Yay! I got something that I can be useful. I can be valuable, right?
Yeah.
That's all they want. That's all they want. But it just takes a little bit of diplomacy to shift them, right? And sometimes, okay, a bit of ethical manipulation is involved too. Sometimes you just have to flat out trick your aspects.
This is why you brought up the new nobility in the first part of that module about what is new nobility to me. Okay,
Exactly.
I got it.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
connected.
And the new nobility is a very large, long, extended metaphor, obviously. And it's a tool that allows for exactly what I said now. Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
It's a tool that gives many opportunities for putting ourselves into situations that we can use them to describe, like I just did, to say,
Yes.
oh, wow, I'm in a conference, a diplomatic conference, but all the parts are me, that greater universe is actually me. It's fantastic. It's really cool. It's really useful. And, to see ourselves in an idealized way is also great. The more you start thinking that way, the more you start moving into that realm of thinking here now. And this is a fantastic way to think. It's a very sophisticated, very profound, very magical way of thinking, no?
So, Sil, those questions in the tasks and exercises, they weren't just random questions.
Oh, hell no.
asked those.
Oh,
for the
oh,
purpose
hell
of
no.
setting
Oh, hell
up
no.
the rest of the course. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And they are, some of them are like, what do you imagine the new nobility to be? This is an ongoing question.
Yep.
You're going to answer as best you can, but as we go through the course, you get, oh. And then later on, because look, it's part of the Moreness project, right? So the reading the new nobility course, which is reading book 1 of the series. And now that same question starts to come retroactively, and you keep building your conception of what a new noble is to you. Yeah. And it's an ongoing question. So many of the questions like that, there's no right or wrong answer. They simply for a starting point, and then you build on it, and it keeps going forever. Yeah.
Whatever the new nobility is to us, that's us describing ourselves.
Exactly. And this is an evolutionary process, right?
Okay.
Because I don't want to describe myself, but conceive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And we
it's a
had talked about that
conception.
before.
Description is something which is tight and limiting. A conception is the inverse. It's the opposite. It goes open. It evolves every way, right?
There was a purpose for that question then that I had this morning. I'll be
Oh
darned.
yeah. I put more into the questions than I do into the text. Much
Oh no,
more.
I meant well to that, but yes, you did. But I also mean there was a purpose to the question that myself asked myself this morning. And that was this. That was this understanding of connecting it all. There was something that I needed to make sense of.
Yeah.
It wasn't a random question. I'll be darned.
Exactly. There was point and purpose and value and usefulness to it.
Yes, there absolutely was. Because originally when I heard it, I was like, wait, where'd that come from? That was just, like you said, too random. But it wasn't. It was
No, it
there
was
was
very valuable.
Yeah.
It was a question that one of its prime values and purposes and intents was specifically to force you to shift perspective. Yes.
It absolutely was.
It forced you to say, well, I've grown, I'm different. I am different. I have changed, which means I can change, which means I will. What a magical thing. When you know you have changed, change is no longer a possibility. It's a fact.
See, I've been looking for proof that I've changed. And I know I have, but then I couldn't find the proof.
So you see,
Now I
you asked for that question.
I did.
You asked for it. You set an intent when you were looking for proof of change. You set an intent to get that. And there you did. See, trust. Isn't trust, capital T, trust, absolutely critical for capital diplomacy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have to trust. You cannot assume the delegates are nincompoops as a default.
No.
Nobody tries to be a nincompoop. They might be, but they're not trying to be. All the delegates, they're coming there with good intent, right? Now, okay, sometimes you may have them, they are trying to be disruptive and break it down, but according to them, they think this is the good thing. So no matter what, people have an intent to goodness, even if it's a messed up goodness, a bubble goodness, doesn't matter. They're still trying to be good. So once we honor that, now it becomes a matter of just broadening the context, the awareness, right? Putin's trying to do what he thinks is good for him. Of course, he's mistaken. But if we can't say, dude, you're wrong. We can simply say, show him how there are other goods which are greater goods than this particular good. See?
Oh, and I hope that's what they keep doing. I know
Yeah.
some of the members of the UN are trying and others are a little bit harsh, but it's like, hopefully we can do this diplomatically, you know? We can only hope.
When he sees where his best interest lies, okay, in the diplomatic sense, they won't say good, they'll just say best interest. When he sees his best interest is to, not continue with this, okay, he's going to have a bit of egg on his face, but if they can provide him with a good rationale, okay, he's the hero, he's the good guy, he's now prevented the genocide, supposedly, that was there. Okay, now we know to leave, it's all safe. Okay, he can keep his bullshit up. Fine, keep him to safe face. So you have to understand the inside of his logical world. If he thinks he's come away with a victory, even if it isn't a victory, as long as he thinks so. All right.
Yeah.
But I suspect, though, that this will lead to the end of Putin, where he starts to realize that his interest is to get out of politics, because otherwise he's going to get lynched or something,
Yep, I know. And you've got a meeting starting here in just a few minutes, so
Yes. Thank you. Sher, I sent you an invitation in the context of your magazine, Logic. It's a page, I think it's a page called Creative Vision, and they just have wild, beautiful, magical art, and this may help you in the same way as the magazines. I don't know, you'll see.
Okay.
It's
All
a
right.
cool page. Just fun stuff. Yeah, it happened to come up, so all right, very cool.
Wonderful.
Brilliant.
Thank you, so.
All right, later,
Okay.
Sue. Sue. Sure, hang on. Anyhow. Yeah, S. My mind goes S, and then it puts S. Come on. I wasn't even thinking of Sue. Maybe I should contact her. Brilliant, Sir. Brilliant. All right.
Take care.
Okay. All right, bye-bye.